Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining us for our third lesson lab this week, celebrating upper elementary grades for elementary week. Once again, hi, my name is Tyson here at Newsela, and I am joined by my friend Lindsey. Hi, Lindsey.
Hello.
Hi, how are you doing today?
Good. I don't
I
have
am
the view you
super,
have.
what was that?
I don't have the view you have.
We are a little bit spoiled here at the Newsela office in New York City, absolutely. I'm really excited to talk with you today about all things like earth science in the upper elementary grades. Thanks for joining.
Happy to be here.
So, the lesson labs that we've been doing so far are really focusing in on a particular type of lesson or a particular subject or unit that teachers are teaching. And we wanted to focus on the earth science components of upper elementary science classrooms because they stack a lot. Can you talk to us a little bit about like what are some of the earth science lessons that teachers in upper elementary grades usually cover?
Yeah, sure. So anything through third to fifth, they really do stack. They might be focusing on weather and climate.
Mm.
It might get into water shortages, even things like natural disasters.
Mm.
And so some of those like core concepts of those lessons do build. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I'm thinking about like in normal times, we would have a pretty high amount of confidence that students got all of those lessons in the previous years, and they're showing up to your classroom with all of the background knowledge that they need to tackle that grade level content. I don't think we can be that confident with the last couple of years that students got all of these lessons, because so many classrooms were disrupted. Before we dive in, do you have any advice for teachers that are either in an NGSS state or maybe a teacher in a state that doesn't have NGSS standards adopted before we dive in?
Using Newsela. That's my advice.
Great answer.
That was an easy ping. Yeah, I mean, you have to find resources to fill those gaps, but you also have to find resources that help you identify where those gaps are because you might not know. And we definitely have resources that do both of those things.
I can't wait to dive in. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Cool. Okay, so teachers that are joining us, remember that for the most part, the stuff that we're talking about today is going to be found with a Newsela Science license. If your school or district does not have a license to Newsela Science, don't worry, we're going to show you some ways that you can find some similar resources. We're going to show you some tips and tricks later. And Lindsey, potentially a Newsela Essentials license is going to give you some of these resources as well, yeah?
Yeah, some of them. Yeah.
Some of them. Okay. So we'll just make sure that when we're showing something, we'll let y'all know what license is required to see it. But for the most part, if you're on newsela.com and you're not seeing what I'm seeing, it might be because you don't have the particular license that is needed to see it. So Lindsey, I'm on Newsela. I have gone to my browse menu and I clicked on science, which we think every teacher should do. That's like the starting place almost every time. Tell us a little bit about where we're going to find like the most robust earth science resources for the various grades that we talked about.
Most robust is going to be under elementary courses.
Okay, perfect.
And those are science license specific.
Okay, great. And I see right here, it's no surprise that we're going right into those upper elementary grades. So I want you to take a moment just to tell us a little bit about what is going to be found when a teacher clicks through these NGSS unit lessons. Let's specifically go into the weather and climate, that earth science unit that we're talking about here. What are teachers going to see?
Sure. So these obviously are NGSS aligned units. I do want to emphasize, though, I'm here in Nebraska, and this is a resource that I could use not being from an NGSS state as well, because they are so organized by topic.
Yeah.
So a great resource for both. But you'll find lots of tools in the resource menu. So at this level, you'll find a pacing guide. At the collection level, even higher, you can find a resource that will take you to like the full NGSS alignment that can be really helpful.
Oh, yeah.
And then obviously within each of those topics is where you will find the meat of the lessons. So a full 5E science lesson for each of the topics that use our amazing Newsela articles.
And Lindsey, just remind me, who writes these lesson sparks and all these lesson plans?
We do. We write them in-house.
I totally forgot to let people know what you do here at Newsela. Can you explain for a moment?
Yeah, sure. So I am an instructional designer on the curriculum and instruction team, and I work specifically for science.
So you're like the perfect person to have on a call with us today.
I'm excited to talk about science for sure.
Amazing. Can you tell us like what is in a 5E lesson plan for those teachers that might not have experience with those next gen science standards?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you scroll down, you can see them all here, but it really follows a pretty natural formatting of a lesson that you would go through. Engaging, it's what teachers are naturally going to do. I was a fifth grade teacher before this, and at the beginning of a lesson, you're hooking the students in some way, and that's what engage is.
Yeah.
You get into exploring what the topic is you're going to be learning that day.
Okay.
You explain. That's where you're going to find often our articles.
Got it.
Engaging students. You're doing all those things naturally. The 5E lesson just kind of lays it out for you in a format that makes the most sense.
It doesn't feel that different from like a Madeline Hunter lesson or any other lesson plan structures that teachers might be familiar with. So
No.
cool.
Nope.
This seems very approachable. One thing that I want to ask about, I see that, with these next gen science standards, there's the 3 topics for weather, climate, and then weather hazards. And then I'm seeing a couple other things here. Let me tell me a little bit about what Newsela has prepared for teachers after those 3 topics are covered.
Sure. So science is not just something you can read about, right? You can't just have a science textbook. You can't just have science articles.
Right.
You have to do science. So part of these units includes a performance task. You'll find one in every single unit. And then there's also a summative assessment written for each of them. Teachers will find the assessment and an answer guide. The answer guides are also, they go in depth. So they give examples of like high level answers. They might give examples of certain ones too, or give rationale for why the answer is. So they're a very in-depth, robust resource for teachers.
I love it. Anything else before we talk a little bit about like doing a little bit of remediation? Any other like components of an NGSS unit that you want to talk through?
No, I think you covered it.
Cool. So one thing that I'm really interested in, and I think we talked about it a little bit, is for those students in the potentially later grades. So if I'm going to go back to the science homepage and go back to those elementary courses. Let's say I'm a 5th or maybe even a 6th grade teacher, and I'm teaching an earth science unit, and I do not know whether my students have had some of those introductory concepts or like foundational knowledge. One thing that I wanted to point out is, with a Newsela science license, it's not like when you are given a set of 5th grade Newsela or a 5th grade science textbooks where you only have 5th grade resources and you'd have to like go to another teacher to get those remediation opportunities. With a Newsela license, you can access the NGSS units from the grade before. You can really artfully weave in some of those foundational concepts if your students maybe are a little bit rusty or lacking in those foundational knowledge gaps. That would make covering something like matter in the ecosystem, or specifically like the water planet, if your students didn't have a really robust weather and climate lesson or really robust in 4th grade soil and erosion, it might be really hard to teach some of these concepts. Where else can teachers go if they need to remediate a little bit and find those foundational skills and concepts that they need to bring into their classrooms?
We do have another collection that could be really useful for that purpose, which is our science core ideas. It's a collection all about reviewing. It is this exact purpose in mind. So you can go to that menu with physical science or earth science. You can find that specific topic that you want to review with students. Each of those has like a few days worth of lessons and activities that you can do, whether you're just trying to gauge where your students are with that knowledge, or you are wanting to go through all of it to review. So that could be a really good resource for teachers too.
Yeah, we might even have to like assume that some students, or even most of those students, are going to need to brush up on some of these concepts before we tackle that grade level content. What I love about these is it is really connected to those key, like most important vocabulary terms. And I love that your team has really written out a couple days of instruction. This isn't a full unit. It's just really getting students' feet wet so they can tackle that grade level content confidently and with all the background knowledge that they need. Let's see. I wanted to talk about, hold on, what do we have next? I think it was, are we moving on to the free teacher experience, or do you have any other like Newsela science components in particular that you wanted to talk through?
No, I think the text edits by teachers is another great resource.
Oh yeah, perfect. So if I'm on the Newsela homepage, how do I get to those text sets by teachers?
Yep. So it's right in our science homepage menu.
Yep. There
It's
it is.
a lengthy one right now, but it's there. Yeah, there's all kinds of resources in here. So earth science for sure, but all kinds of science.
I love that. And remind me, so teachers, even if they have a free license, are going to be able to see these text sets?
Yes, these text sets are all Newsela users.
Very cool. And if I have a free license and I click into one of these text sets, actually, let's find one that's a little bit more aligned to some earth science here. Well, how about some space science and biology together? Is a teacher that has a free license, are they going to be able to see all of the content here, or is any of these articles going to be hidden?
All of what's in the lessons, they'll have access to see all of that. But you're right. So some of the articles they may not have access to. Some of those articles will just be science or essentials licenses.
Gotcha.
So that's really just an opportunity for the teachers that do have those licenses to have a little bit more to pick from.
Yeah.
But there'll be enough of those articles that the lesson can still be completed.
Very cool. And Lindsey, remind me, where do these text sets come from?
Teachers. They come from our Newsela community. And so we go right into the community to find teachers that are gracious enough to share their amazing ideas with us. And so we just repurpose them, which a lot of the time they're just so beautiful already. We just give them credit and we put them in here and we share them with a broader audience. And they're very popular. Text sets by teachers is something that we've seen time and again teachers return back to.
I love that. So, and I also love that we're giving the teachers that create these really innovative lessons all of the credit that they deserve. Like we're not trying to take over credit here. So we've linked, Jacqueline Glasner was so gracious enough to share this in our community, and you can see her original post in the community and her original intention. We might have modified it a little bit to maybe make it a little less grade specific or make it a little bit more usable. But this is the exact lesson that she shared in the community. So we didn't have to do too much work on this one, it looks like.
Usually don't. No.
Quick reminder then that every single teacher that uses Newsela, whether you have a Newsela science lesson or you're a free Newsela user, you have access to the community also. All you have to do is let me back up actually. From almost any page on Newsela, if you drop down this Educator Center dropdown, you're going to see a direct link to the community. No usernames or password required. Your Newsela account already gets you into the community. Super easy. Or of course, you can go to community.newsela.com at any time to find your way here. Specifically wanted to point out up here at the top is the science tab for the science group. If you haven't joined the science group yet, you might have a little banner down here that says join the group to post or comment or respond to some of these lessons. But what Lindsey's team does is goes into this shared lessons tab right here and gets to see all of these incredible lessons that teachers are sharing. I can see that some of them actually have like a number of views, and let's see if any. Oh, global water challenges. Perfect. If I was a teacher that was trying to teach some earth science and some lessons in those kind of water zones, this might be an opportunity for me to see what Saima is teaching with her students to see if I can borrow any of her ideas as well. I love it. There's a couple other things that a teacher with a free license to Newsela can do, and that is by being very clever and crafty with their search strategy. So I wanted to talk about a couple of search strategies that you could use to use your free Newsela license in a really super curricular way. So one of the things that I would recommend is taking a look at those tier 3 vocabulary words. So the unit specific vocab that students need when they're covering a specific unit in a science lesson, and just search for that. So let's say condensation is one of those tier 3 words that students should be able to know after a lesson. This is going to show all sorts of articles. What I'm seeing right now is premium as well. I think, Lindsey, we have access to Newsela Science ourselves, but there are definitely going to be some potentially news stories or some daily stories in here that a teacher that doesn't have access to a Newsela premium product is going to be able to use. So if you're kind of doing a little bit of remediation for condensation topics, you can bring in some news content to help make that really alive for students. Lindsey, do you have any other unit level vocab for any upper elementary earth science lessons that we can search for?
Sure. How about traits?
Ooh. Okay, I see there's a lot of components about traits, about inheritance. I'm guessing alleles is going to show some of those as well. So that's an awesome way to again, look at those key vocabulary words for a particular unit and search in Newsela for those keywords. You're probably going to find super sciencey articles that show up that you can use in your classroom. Lindsey, one last, do you have any other things that you wanted to share for teachers about ways that they can remediate or like fill in background knowledge with students in the earth science or upper elementary zone?
I would say there are so many different collections and resources with the science and essentials licenses. So one of the great things that you can do is just explore some of them. Obviously, doing it through search, but even
take it away
through some of our favorites. I mean, I could share some of the favorites for an hour, and I won't do that. But some of the ways, if you have that license, we do have right off of the main science page in that left-hand navigation menu, you can browse articles by topic. So they're already organized for you that way, which can be really helpful. We also have diagrams organized for you. So it just takes away some of that time of sorting through things, which we know teachers need time back. So if we can help you with that, this is one of those ways that we try to do it. Here's just another example of a water lesson where it wasn't necessarily a specific NGSS full course unit, but here's an opportunity for students to discover, in this case, water on Earth. This is from our TUVA partnership collection, which is so cool. Students get to work with data sets, graphs. They get to interact with them and change things on the graphs to really like analyze and interpret information. So like looking through some of these types of collections that will almost always you'll be able to find at least one lesson in here that relates to the concepts that you're teaching. So we have many things like that on site.
And remind me, these are all with the Newsela Science license?
Science or essentials for these.
Or essentials. Okay, that's really great to point out. And for those that aren't familiar with TUVA Labs, can you just give a really quick overview of what this? I know it's hard to believe that some teachers haven't explored that yet.
So these are fun. I'll just click into this data set as an example here. But you saw on that page, there was also a link to an activity, which is a full printable worksheet that walks students through like what they should be selecting on the graph and asking them questions.
Great.
And it pulls up a specific link to a data set that they can interact with, which is loading here. But it's really neat because students can select like different assets on the graph. They can change the X and Y. They have opportunities to look at like line graphs versus it looking like a bar graph and things like that. So, you're hitting on some cross subject standards too, potentially in these types of collections. So this is just an example of what that can look like.
That looks so cool. And I think back to the standardized tests that students take specifically in the science domain. And so much of that knowledge is working with graphs, working with data representations, and being able to either manipulate or read a little bit between the lines here. So I love that we're giving students more hands-on information or abilities to actually manipulate those data sets.
Yeah, got to give them practice.
One quick plug that I wanted to make, if there aren't any teachers that are watching right now and you have a Newsela free account and you would really love to play around with some of these Newsela science components, have we got an offer for you? If you sign up for the Newsela Certified Educator Program and complete your certification, it is about a 5-hour, we say about 3 to 5 hour course. If you're a free teacher and you get your certification, we are offering an entire rest of the school year of premium Newsela products for you, just to show how much we appreciate you taking the time to learn Newsela. So if we switch to my screen really quickly, I'll show you where you can go to find that link. If you're in the Newsela community, right here, you're going to see the Newsela Certified Educator group. And there's a Start NCE program link right here. You can also find this on newsela.com. But it'll talk you through how to begin your certification journey. And again, within 3 to 5 hours, you can have a full Newsela license for the rest of the school year. So if you saw some of this great stuff that Lindsey was showing off and you really want to get your hands on it for your students, go ahead and take the course. And as part of that, you actually get to share a lesson in the Newsela science group if you're a science teacher. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what some teachers are submitting here. All right, Lindsey, do you have anything else to share with the group before we part ways?
No, I would just say if you think of Newsela and you don't immediately think of science, you haven't explored it enough yet. Because you should. Science and Newsela, we're buddies, we're here. There's so many great resources. I just encourage teachers, if you have the opportunity to do that program and to dive in and see what Newsela Science offers, I think it'll change some of the things that you're teaching every day.
That sounds great. And you know, if teachers are lucky, maybe Lindsey will select your tech set to feature on that tech set by teachers list. I want to thank everybody so much for joining us. This has been a really awesome elementary school week. We covered so many reasons that an upper elementary school teacher can infuse Newsela into their classroom. Again, I hope you join the Newsela community and explore what other teachers are doing. And if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and click on the link that we're going to throw in the chat and let us know how we did. There's an opportunity to give us some feedback and to say thank you. We're going to be giving away some prizes to folks that give feedback. So click on that link and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Lindsey.
Thanks, Tyson.
Have a great night.